Okay, welcome to Beginners Python and Machine Learning, meetup number 58. Today we're going to play the Pythonator game. So first of all, can I just check that people can hear me? If you could say in the chat if you can hear me. I'm listening on the Slack channel, Learning to Code in Beginners Python, and also on the YouTube chat. So you can contact me either way. I've got no response, so I'm assuming that you can hear me. So we'll look at, we're going to do Pythonator today. I put some instructions in the, oh yeah, people are saying they can hear me. That's all good. We're looking at Pythonator. I put some instructions what we need to run this today. And if you go to pythonator.com, you can go through the instructions. I'll just briefly go through it here in case you haven't done it yet. So on pythonator.com, in the Install tab, you pick your operating system and install the instructions there. So say if you've got Windows 64-bit, you need to install Python 3. Anything after 3.6 is good, so 3.6 is good, 3.7, 3.8. I've got 3.8 running on mine. We want PyCharm Edu, so the current one is 2020.1. So you can either do the PyCharm Community Edition and then add the Edutools plugin, or you can just go straight for PyCharm Edu. And it might be better to do the Community Edition if you haven't done it yet. And then mind test. So let's look at these three sites that you'll need for this software. There's python.org is where you can get Python from. If you've got the Anaconda installation, that should also work. So I assume you've got that one. PyCharm. So under tools here, you've got, that's at jetbrains.com, we've got PyCharm, and that'll take you where you can load the Community Edition. Or you can get PyCharm Edu, which is basically the Community Edition with the Edutools plugin already in it. The problem with PyCharm Edu is it's got a couple of menus disabled by default, so it's just a little bit of a pain having to turn them on. So either way, you've got to do something. You download and then you make one change with either of those. And then Mindtest. So mindtest.net. If you've got Windows, you can download that straight. If you've got a Mac, it's slightly harder to install. I'll just click on the download button there. If you've got Homebrew, you can install it using Homebrew. Brew install Mindtest. Now, if you haven't installed Homebrew at this stage, then you might find it easier to go back to the Pythonator site and under Mac 10.11 plus, I've got a link here to a pre-built version of Mindtest 5, so you can download that one and run that one, and that'll be a bit faster than building it with Homebrew at this stage. Okay, so let's say we've got Python installed, and the next thing you want to do is well, let's run Mindtest. That'll be the first thing, and we'll get into the game. So when you run Mindtest, you start it up. It comes up with this startup screen and a few tabs here. Now you can start your own game of Mindtest, but we're going to join a server game. So we're going to go to Join Game. And in Join Game, you need to fill out the address and the port here. It'll come up with some other ones that you can connect to on the left, but they won't work with what we're doing. The only one that'll work will be this demo.pythonator.com because it's got a special plugin that's listening for commands from Python programs. The port number is 30,000, and then just make up your own username and password. If you accidentally choose a username that's been used by someone else, then obviously you'll get your password wrong and you'll come up with an error about the password. But if not, it will create a new user for you. So I'll just put my password in and click connect. That's good. I can see Liviu is in there already and no one else. Well, that's good. So when you first arrive, I'll just make this a bit bigger. Now you can, the mouse is linked to the direction that you're looking. So to get rid of that, press the escape key, and then you can move the mouse separately. And like I'll move the mouse, so I'll make this full screen. And then I can click back on continue. The other thing, you go into change keys, and you can see all the keys that you need for playing in Minecraft, Mindtest. Now the important ones for us is going to be these movement ones, WSAD, the jumping one, which is space, and sneak, which is on Windows, I think it says left shift, and that's not going to work on Mac. So if you've got a Mac, you'll just have to click on that one and then press a shift key and it'll just say shift. And then you can save that. All right, so let's try moving around. I'm going to press the S key and that makes me go backwards. As you can see, I'm going backwards. Ah, yes, Liviu's moving around well. We can go forwards with the W key. I can press the A key and I'll go left, and I can press the D key and I can go right. Now let's walk over to Liviu's sign. So I'll point my mouse over towards them and I'll start walking. Now I can see Liviu's sign and I can keep walking, and oh no, I've been teleported back to my sign. And that's happened because I'm currently in a jail, and the jail is set for task 3. So I have to do 3 of the tasks in Python before I can get out of my jail. So let's have a look at what these tasks are. First task is to place an orange wool block at XYZ coordinates above. And there's my sign. It's got my name, Pythonator, because that's what I logged in as, and it's got these XYZ coordinates. So if you've got a pencil and paper, just write them down, especially the Z one. So for me, that's 130. And you're going to need that to do the Python course. Now let's have a look at these coordinates. If I press the F5 key now, I've turned on the debug information, which is up in the top left-hand corner of the screen. And you can see my position is 102.2, 9.5, 129.8. So they're my XYZ coordinates. So you can see the coordinates on the sign are pretty close to where I am. And if I move right just a little bit, you can see now my Z coordinate is 130. So the Z coordinate changes by me going left and right along this direction. My X coordinate changes when I go forward and back. And the Y coordinate changes when I press the space bar and jump. You see the Y coordinate going up and down. All right, well that's given us an introduction to Mindtest, and we can see what other people have been doing. Everyone else who's in the game will have their own signs up there, all with different Z values, and you can see some of them have started building stuff already. So let's see what we can build. Now I'm going to press escape, so it frees up my mouse, and I'm going to switch to PyCharm. Okay, now I'm running PyCharm Edu. If you're just running PyCharm Community Edition, then you're going to need to install the Edutools plugin. So to do that, go up to PyCharm menu and go to Preferences on Mac, or I think it's called Settings on Windows, and go down to Plugins. And in the plugins, in the Marketplace, type Edutools. That's right. Now you can see I've already got it installed. If you haven't got it installed yet, then you'll get an install button, so you can install that now. Okay, so make sure you've got that one installed, and when that's installed, then you've got this Learn and Teach menu here on your home screen, on the splash screen. And in there we can start one of the courses. So we're going to browse the courses to find one to start. Now these are some courses that I've written. I wrote them mainly for kids to learn how to program Python, but I think they're a lot of fun, so adults can learn some Python as well. Up here in the search box, type Pythonator, and spell it properly. And there's 3 courses in there: the B1 Easy, B2 Easy, B3 Advanced. So B1 Easy is a good, very introductory course. You can run that one if you want. It doesn't require mind test at all, so you can do that one. But today we're going to do B2 Easy. This one is in mind test. So we select that one and click on Join. So if you have any problems, if some of these things are not behaving like they are for me, when you try to do it, then let me know in the chat, and we'll try to debug those issues for you. Okay, so we've started the course, and we're starting to get a few little error messages. Installing packages failed. It says down here on the bottom right, Python 2.7. That's pretty bad. I don't want to use Python 2.7. So I want to be using Python 3. Now, because I'm on a Mac, it's got Python 2.7 by default. If you're running Windows, hopefully it's tried to do this to Python 3.8 or similar. Automatically. But anyway, let's see how to fix this. So I go to PyCharm and Preferences, and down here under my project, Pythonator B2 Easy 1, I choose the Python interpreter that I want to use. And it's currently saying Python 2.7, and it's not going to work. So I go to this pull down menu, and I'll try to do this slowly, so if anyone's following along, I click Show All. Okay. I can see I've deleted my 3.8 that I had before. So I could use one of these ones. These are ones I've used for other projects, but I don't want to. I want to create a new one. And I like to have a different virtual environment for every every project that I use. Okay, so the virtual environment that I'm going to be using, because I've got Python installed from python.org, is I'm going to use a virtual env type environment. Now, if you've used Anaconda, then choose the second one, which is Conda environment, but don't choose either of the last two. The base interpreter, hopefully it's found Python 3 for you. Otherwise, you're going to have to navigate and find where Python 3 is for you on your computer, and shows where it's going to store it. It's just going to store it in a folder called venv, which is in my projects directory. Okay, so I'll click on that. Okay, that'll create that environment for me. Okay, and there's my environment. It's got a couple of little packages installed. And as you get more familiar with Python, you'll learn more about these virtual environments. But what you try to do is set one up because you add libraries into your environment, and you don't want the libraries you add in for this project to affect other projects that you might run. And So it's really good to have a different virtual environment for every project that you've got. Okay. So now PyCharm has got the environment. It's now saying that it needs this package IRC builder, and so it makes it easy for you. You just click install requirement and it will install that for you. And now you can write programs that can talk to that Mindtest server. We've got 3 columns here. In the middle column is our Python code. On the right is explaining what to do. On the left it's just explaining the course, but we don't really need to know that. We're just going to work through these lessons one by one. So I'm going to hide that by clicking on the project tab just there. And so in this column here, this is our first Python program. It's a very simple program. It's just got a bunch of variables, and we're just going to store some values into each one. And we're going to use this Python program to set up our use of Pythonator. So you remember your username that you created before to get into Mindtest. So put that username in here. Mine was called Pythonator. And then put in your Z number. So my Z number on my sign was 130. And these last 3 values should all be correct for what we're doing today. Now, I haven't put the password in yet. If I click check down here on the bottom right, it's going to say there's a problem, and that's because my password is wrong. So I didn't get an int for player Z, instead got you are not logged in, which is because I didn't have a password. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this off screen and type my password in, and then click check, and that will check that I got it all right, and then it'll give me a button here to say next, and I'll move on to the next task. So if you want to do that, I won't be showing you that bit, but I'll then show you what the next task looks like. Okay, that checked out for me. And so now we can move on to the next task. So at the top here it says task 1A, placing a block. And this matches the task 1 that we saw in Mindtest. And it's really just how to start building. So the task, visit the Mindtest world and find your sign, which is what we have done already. It will have coordinates where you need to create a wool block. Enter the Z coordinate in the program on the left. Okay, and let's scroll down. That all looks pretty familiar, except we didn't have a block there. The sign said build a orange block, but we're going to do a green one. So we're doing that by saying wool : green. And it explains how this works. We create a connection to the Mindtest server. We run this build command with an X coordinate, a Y coordinate, and a Z coordinate, and the material that we want to make the block out of at that coordinate. Once we've done the build, we send our building off to the Mindtest server and it builds it. So currently it's put in the 100 for us, it's put in the 14, it's now it's asking us for a number. You can see it's got a little rectangle around it and it's in blue. And the number, so I'm going to type in my number, 130, and let's see if I get it. I'll do it wrongly first. I'll say 131, and I'm going to click on check down in the bottom right. And it's saying missing build at 114, 130. It should be a wool with one of these colors, but in fact it got nothing. Okay, so let's change it to 130. And put the comma back in. And I'll put the comma outside there. And click check. So that says I got my code right, but it hasn't actually run it yet. So for me to run it, I click on this green triangle, execute my task. So if I do that, you can see all the communication. It starts chatting with the Pythonator Mindtest server and sends to it one green wool. So if I go to Mindtest now and have a look, there is in fact one block of green wool above at the coordinates that I said. I see we've got a couple of other people who have joined the game. That's good. Now Mindtest has worked out that I've finished task 1, and so it's given me task 2, which is place a glass frame around the block at the coordinates above. Okay, so, and you can see over to the left some people have started doing the glass frames. But still, if I try to walk over here, I will get teleported back. So I'm still in the jail. So the other people who are logged in, if you want to try building doing that task and creating a block at those coordinates. And I'll be listening on the chat to see if anyone's got any questions about it. So what we've learnt in this first lesson in Python, it runs through the commands in Python in a sequential order. It starts at the top of the file and just keeps working its way down. And we haven't got any loops or functions that we've written ourselves, so it just runs them in the sequence that they are listed in the file. It's just got the 3 lines that it's running. But we're learning how to call functions. So this build command is calling a function, and we're passing in parameters. So the parameters that we've passed in are we're passing in 4 parameters: 100, 14, 130, and the material, which is green wool. Then we're calling a function that doesn't have any parameters. That's the send building function. It's more like a method. And so we still put the parentheses there, but there's nothing in the parentheses as it doesn't need anything. Okay, well, while you're working on that, I'll move on to the next one, because the next one is also to do with the first task in the Mindtest world. So it's called task 1b. So it's a different way that we can place a block in the Mindtest world. And so we're going to use the same mc.build function, but this time rather than putting values in there, we're going to use variables. So variables are like memory locations, and we can store our values in these memory locations, and then we can call them later. And it's very useful to have it in one spot, so if we needed to change it later, we can just change the value that went into that variable, and then our whole program would use that new value. So we need to put the x into a variable called refx. These names can be anything you like, except they can't start with a number. The only special character they can have in them is underscores. You can't have spaces or parentheses or any other symbol in there, or dashes. You can't use any of the Python reserved words, but really just make up names for now, and then if you've come up across a Python reserved word, it'll tell you that you can't use that word. Okay, so we've used underscores to separate the words in the variable name. That's just a convention. It's what most Python programmers do. So our coordinates from our sign were 114 and for me 130. And this time we're going to do a blue wool. So we'll store a string. Now string has these double quotes around it. It can have single quotes or double quotes. They both work the same way. And it's just basically a bunch of text. So you can store text into a variable, or you can store numbers into a variable. And there are other data types as well, but that's what we're going to start with. And then when we want to use the variable, we just call the variable by name. So if that was a number, it would be knowing that it was a value that was going in. Because it's letters, it knows it's a variable that's going in. And if I wanted to use a string value directly in there, like we did last time, then I would put quotes around that string so that it knows it's not a variable name, it's actually the value that you want to send to that function. So we're going to do mc.build with those values, and let's check that that worked. That worked, so now I'm going to run it. So remember to run it. And it sent one blue wool. Exit code 0 means everything worked fine. Exit code 1 means there's been an error. Let's go and have a look in MindTest. I look up and there's my blue wool. How's everyone else going? Got no other blocks yet. Got a few people who've logged into MindTest, so that's good. If you want me to slow down, just say that in the chat. Otherwise, I'll just keep going, and you can just follow along and work out how to add these things. And if you've got specific questions, you can ask me in the chat as well. So I'm listening and learning to code on Slack or the YouTube chat channel. You can even do some talking in MindTest itself. So if I was to press the T, I can then just write hello all, and everyone else who's in the MindTest world at the same time can see that I've said hello all. And if you're having any questions about how to run MindTest as well, which is probably where you're going to have most questions, then feel free to ask them as well. Okay, Roy Moss has had problems installing the Edutools and it doesn't restart. No, I'd just give it another go, I guess. It's not a very big file, it's less than 1 megabyte, the Edutools. But yeah, if you've tried installing it, then try quitting PyCharm and starting it again. And I presume you're using a late version of PyCharm Community Edition. And if that all fails, you can always go to download the PyCharm Edu, but that's quite a big download. So, task 2, placing several blocks. To place one block, we just had one mc.build command, and now we want to place 8 more blocks. So we've just got 9 mc.build commands here. And these are the 9 blocks that we're going to place. We didn't need to do the center one, but we're going to do it again, just because we're going to change the color as well, just to see if everything's working. So we do need to understand 3-dimensional coordinates. So if we're looking at this picture, looking at the sign, then this is what we're trying to build, and every block that we're placing is going to have the same x value, because they're all in that same plane, which is x equals 100. Now the y values are are going to be 14 for the wool in the middle. The one below that is going to be y equals 13, and one above is going to be y equals 15. So in that world, each they're basically measurements in meters. So each block is 1 meter cubed. So 1 meter below has got the y value is less 1, and y above is plus 1. Now the z values, everyone's going to have a different reference z point. So I just said z equals ref z as the center, and the one to the right of that is ref z plus 1, and the one to the left is ref z minus 1. So I've just used a formula rather than typing in the number. So for me, that's going to be 130. The one to the left is going to be 129, and the one to the right is going to be 131. So let's go over to the code and fill in the bits that we need to. The ref z there, 130, because that's always going to be 130 for me, and for you it's going to be a different, but a multiple of 10. Okay, so the first line here is going at 100, they're all x equals 100, y equals 13, ref z minus 1. So it's this block here, the bottom left. The next one is going to be y equals 14, and then y equals 15. So this block here, we need to know what the x value is for that block. Now all the x values are 100, so we can just type 100 straight in there. So we've done y equals 14, y equals 15, and then this fourth line, fourth mc.build, is going to be at 13 ref z. Then we're going to do, the next one we're going to do is going to be where we want the wool to go. So that's going to be at 14 ref z. And so I can just put the variable name there, ref z. And then 15 ref z. Then we're going to do the ones in this last column as y equals 13, y equals 14, y equals 15. Okay, so we'll fill this in ref z plus 1. And that'll give me the top right one there. And I'll just click on check. That's good, and let's run it and see what we get. Okay, that sent 8 glass and 1 red wool. So let's go and have a look in Mindtest. Okay, now Wei Yin has asked, how do we get to the chat in Mindtest, which is a very good question. So I press T for talk. So if I press T, it brings up the chat, and I can say, hi, Wei Yin. And everyone who's in the Mindtest world should be able to see that and see that it came from me as Pythonator. Okay, so while I'm here, we can look at our blocks that we've created. We've got our 1 red wool block in the middle and 8 glass blocks around the outside. Not getting a lot of progress from other people, so yeah, just let me know what you're finding is the stumbling block. I see Roy is having trouble installing the Edutools plugin, and that definitely will be a stumbling block for running the course. Yin 2 says, thanks Tim. Very good. So I can wave. So I just waved by clicking the mouse then, and that moves my right arm. So my sign for my task in Mindtest has changed. It's now saying place a glass box around the block at the coordinates above. And so at the moment we've got a glass frame, but we want to change it to a glass block. and it's told us that the code for glass is default : glass. The other way you could work out what codes you need to use for materials that you want to use is just point at it, and then if you look at the second row in your debug, which I got from pressing F5, then it says I'm pointing right at the end, I'm pointing at default : glass. And if I move up to the wool, it says I'm now pointing at wool : red with param2 0. And if I look at the floor, it says default : stone. And the way it gets these names is basically from the mods that those materials have come from. So anything that comes from the default mod has got default : and then the name. So glass and stone are coming from the default mod. But all these wools, different coloured wool, they're coming from the wool mod. So how many people got the first task in the course working where it has to validate your name and password? Did that all work correctly? I can't tell from here whether that worked. Ah, I see Wei Yin has created a green block. Well done, Wei Yin. Now, if I try to move away, you'll see I'll get teleported back. Yep, so I'm still getting teleported back because I've got to finish three tasks before I'll get out of the jail. Now, Peter said, how do I get Mindtest to run? Yes, so when you download the portable application, I presume you're working on Windows, you open that folder, and inside that folder there'll be a directory called bin, which stands for binaries. And inside the binary there'll be the mindtest.exe file. So if you double click on that mindtest.exe, that will just run from within that folder, and you'll be able to connect to the Mindtest server. And the instructions for that are on Pythonator. So let's switch to Pythonator website. And we'll go to the Windows installation instructions. So Mindtest 5, download the Mindtest that they said, which I think is now 5.2.0. Extract the zip file into your documents directory. So you have a folder called documents/mindtest-501, and yours will be a slightly different version, -win64 for the 64-bit version. And then in that will be a folder called bin for binaries. And what I do in File Explorer is I right-click on Documents. I right-click on that mindtest.exe and just say Send to Desktop, create shortcut, and then I've got an icon on my desktop, and I can just double-click on that to start Mindtest if I need to. Okay, well, I keep going because I know Peter understands all this stuff about variables and running commands, so he can catch up later. So now we're going to look at loops. So we're on task 3. We've got to place a glass box all the way around the wool in the center. So that's going to be 27 different blocks that have to be placed. We can reduce that a little bit, so we can use loops. So for example, if we want to place 9 glass blocks at the back here, then rather than place 9 mc.build commands, we can do 3 mc.build commands and put them in a loop to run the loop 3 times. So let's have a look. If I scroll down, it gives me a bit of instructions on how loops work. So say, for example, I wanted to do these 6 pieces of glass. I could do it. Well, let's start here. This is a way a for loop works. You have a for, you have a variable name in a sequence. So these orange words are the Python reserved words, so don't use them for variable names. And what that's saying is you're creating a loop that's going to use every value in a sequence, and then that sequence, each time you go through the loop, it'll store the next value from that sequence into that variable. So if we got for y in this sequence of 3 numbers, and I've got parentheses around them, and then print y, it will run this loop 3 times and then print finished. And the way it works out where the loop finishes is where it starts and finishes is by this indentation. So it's indented 4 spaces there. And so everything that's indented 4 spaces is in the loop, and then when it comes to this next line, print finished, then it's outside the loop. And so it only runs that once. So this will print the 13, the 14, the 15, and then finished once. So if we wanted to convert these 6 lines up here to a loop, we can say for y in 13, 14, 15, and then I just do 2 of those lines. And so I'll have 2 lines looped 3 times. I get 6 different values, and it'll get this. It'll be the same as if I'd done mc.build 9913 refz -1, 9913 refz +1. And then you can see y changes to 14, 14, 15, 15. And so the only thing that's changing each time is this value of y. Okay, so let's look at what we're doing over here. We want to do 9 builds of glass, not just 6. So we're going to have 3 build commands in the loop, and we're going to go through the loop 3 times. So the sequence is going to be 13, 14, 15. And this sequence, there's a few different things in Python can be sequences. You can use tuples, which is what this is, which is a group of numbers with parentheses, or you can use lists, which have square brackets around them. In this case, they both behave very similarly, and they can, each time you go through, it'll take one value and put it in. But there's other data types which can also be used as a sequence. And now we're going to use a variable in here, just like we've done in the first line. We use the variable y. The last line we use the variable y. In this line we'll also use the variable y, and that'll create 3 pieces of glass each time we go through that loop. If you're having trouble with any of these tasks, there's hints at the bottom here, and you can look through those hints to help you come up with the solution. All right, I'll click check. All correct. So I'll run it and see what gets built in my Pythonator world. Now you can run it if it doesn't check, and it will still build stuff in that Pythonator world, but if it doesn't check, then what it builds is going to be wrong. Oh, Peter. What it builds is going to be wrong, but it's a good way of debugging. If you can't work out what's wrong with your program, you run it anyway and see what gets built, and then you go, oh, I can see it's put the glass in the wrong place. So let's have a look at mine test. All right, so we've got our glass at the back. Now we've used a different sort of glass. It's called obsidian glass, and so it's just got the black frame. And I've just done that so you can see what's the new stuff that we built compared with the stuff that got built in our previous task. Okay, still asking for a glass box. So if you look down the aisle, you see other people have created a full glass box. So it's 3 by 3 by 3 or 27 blocks of glass. So let's keep working on through this in Python. Oh, Yin's racing along. It's got a few glass blocks there. Okay, so we can actually put a loop inside a loop, and of course create nested loops, and that can reduce the number of lines of code we're having to do even more. So to do that, we just indent even further. So we've indented 4 characters to create to the start of the second loop, and then from there we indent another 4 characters at 4 spaces, and everything in here gets repeated in this loop, and then that loop gets repeated 3 times. So it'll run 9 times. So let's see, is there anything interesting down here that we have to say? I know it just tells you how that works. So if you run that, you'll see the Y and Z values. We've put a print statement in here as well, so we'll run it and see what gets printed. Now our sequence for our Z values, once again I use parentheses. Now I could just type the numbers in. I could type 129, 130, 131, or I could put them in as formulae, just like we've done for the Y's, and that means it'll continue to work if we just change the player Z at some other time. So let's go ref Z -1, ref Z +1. Check how that goes. Once again, we're using obsidian glass. That all checks out. Let's run that. And let's have a look at the print statements. So we've got Y is 13, Z is 129, Y is 13, Z is 130, Y is 13, Z is 131. So you can see the outer loop gets run once, and in that we run the inner loop 3 times. Then the outer loop gets run the second time, and we run the inner loop 3 times. Then the outer loop with the Y's gets run a 3rd time, and we run the inner loop 3 times. So as the inner loops, that's the way the loops go. The outer loops, they start, but then the inner loops have to complete before the outer loops can complete. Okay. Yep, we've got obsidian glass at the front, obsidian glass at the back, normal glass around the outside. Still asking for a glass box, and what we're trying to do here, if I look on the side here, it gives me a little bit of an assessment of what I've done, and it says the block at these coordinates is type obsidian glass, but should be default glass. So it's being a bit specific here. We have to do normal glass, not obsidian glass. So let's go into our code and change that to default glass. And while we're here, we'll learn a new feature of this IRC Builder plugin that we're using. Because it's such a common task to put a build command into a loop, the build function has been written so that it can take a sequence directly as the coordinates. And because Python is not strictly typed, it can take just numbers, or it can take sequences. So sequences can be lists or tuples. And so what it will do, it'll act as like you've just nested loops. So in this case, those 2 lines can be written as 1 line just by putting the sequence straight into the mc.build function. And similarly, if you then put a sequence here, 99, 100 for your x values, and 3 values for the y, so you've got 2 x's, 3 y's, and 1 z, that is like running mc.build 6 times. So it's 2 times 3 times 1. And it will place 6 glass blocks at all of those coordinates. And the numbers don't even need to be consecutive. So you go 99 and 101, we've missed out 100, and that'll just do 2 times 2 times 1, which is 4 blocks, and they'll all be at corners of a cube, but without the middle pieces. Okay, so let's store the sequence into our variable, and then just pass these variables to our build functions. And then we can just do 27 blocks in one build function here of glass, and then replace the center one back with wool. So I could use lists as they have in the, I'll use lists this time. So I use square brackets. My x's are going to go 99, 100, 101, and they don't even have to be in order. I could have, the y's are going to be, let's see, 131, 130, 129, and the z's, oh, that's my z's. That's, the y's are going to be 13, 14, 15. I'll do them out of order just to show that still works. And the z's are going to be 131, 129, 130. Okay, reference x, y, and z have already been set. So let's check if that works. That's good. So let's run that. And let's have a look at mind test. There we go, beautiful. We've got a yellow wool block this time, and we've got 26 glass blocks around it. And now I should be out of the jail, so I can go down here and have a look at how other people are going. So here's someone called Dim, and Dim has destroyed their sign, so they don't know what their coordinates are. So I can tell you that your z coordinate is 170. And even if you look at around the corner here, block is type A. I didn't say what the coordinate should be. But it should be at 170, and I can tell that because I'm looking at my F5, the debug up in the top left corner. I'm currently at 171, and so it's the nearest multiple of 10. So the x is 100, y is 14, z is 170. So who else? Someone's logged in twice. Okay. Anyway, this server will be up and running after the video is finished, so you can keep having a go at this and having a go at the exercises, and you can keep asking questions in Slack. I may take a day or two before I respond to them in Slack, but I can still respond there. Okay, up to task 4, we have to climb down the ladder below this sign to see task 4. So to go down in mind test, we have to use the shift key. So we walk all the way up to the ladder, and then we hold down the shift, and that takes us down. And I move the mouse around, and I press the W key to walk forward, and we can see our sign here. Hello Pythonator, your task is to create a glass tunnel with external dimensions of 5 blocks wide and 7 blocks high. Another sign down here, let's go and read that. The center of the tunnel floor has coordinates, and there's a list of coordinates. X1 so is 93 to 70, Y is 14, Z is 130. Okay, so that's going to be tricky, but write all that down, and well, those coordinates are going to be up there at the top of those stairs, so that's where we've got to build our tunnel. So let's have a look at PyCharm. And move on to the next. Here we go, how to build a tunnel. So what we're going to do is do two things. We're going to get a cuboid of glass, like that. So we can pretty much do that. in a single build statement. And we've got all the sequence of y's, the sequence of z's, the sequence of x's that we're going to need for that. And then the second build command, we're going to do a cuboid of air in the middle. And so what's going to be left is a tunnel. Okay, so let's read what we're going to learn here in this lesson. Number sequences are used frequently, so Python has a range function which can produce them easily. So you can use the range three ways. You can just provide the stop value, so for example range 3, and that is equivalent to 0, 1, 2. So it goes up to, but not including the stop value, but it starts at 0. So when there's just one number, that's really the number of, that's the stop value, but it's also the number of times it's going to, the number of numbers it's got in the sequence. So you can see there's 3 numbers in the sequence and they start from 0. You can also specify a starting number. So we can go from 2 to 5, and that's from 2 inclusive to 5 exclusive. So that'll be 2, 3, 4. But then the second number has to be higher than the first number. If the second number is lower, so if we go from range 4, 0, then it's not going to happen at all because we're already greater than 0. So that's equivalent to an empty tuple or an empty sequence. But if you do want to count backwards, then you can put in a third value, which is the step, how much you're stepping. So we're going to go from 4 down to, but not including 0, stepping in -1s. So that's equivalent to 4, 3, 2, 1. And the step doesn't have to be a 1, it can be 4, which means you're going up in 4s. So going from 70 to 93, you can go up in 4s, 70, 74, 78, 82, 86, 90. All right. So let's have a look at the task. So in our Python program, we've put these comments to make it easier to read what's going on. So the comments start with a hash sign, and everything, and they can be at the end of a line or at the start of a line, and anything after the hash sign is considered a comment, which means it does nothing for the program. It's just there for the programmer to read and help him understand what's going on. So we've said building location, and we set up our variables for our building location. So we want our ref z to be our player z. So player z is what got set in right at the beginning in our very first task. And so that's going to be our ref z, which is 130 for me. The maximum value of x is 93. And the minimum value of x is 70. So we're going to go from 70 to 93. So let's put those numbers in. You can remember that from the sign. Floor y. So that's going to be the value of y at the floor of the tunnel. That's from our sign, that was 14. Okay, so that's specified now the location of where our tunnel is going to be. Just in variables, we haven't built anything yet. Building size. If you remember from the signs, we wanted the height it to be 7 blocks high, and we want it to be 5 blocks wide. What are we going to use for the materials? Well, we're going to have the walls of the tunnel are going to be made out of glass, and the centre is going to be made out of air. Okay, so now we do our calculations. The tunnel length is going to be the x max minus the x min plus 1. And the reason it's plus 1 is you just consider a simple situation where it's going from 4 to 5. If x max was 5 and x min was 4, then that tunnel is 2 blocks long because we're using inclusive values here. So that'll be from, so 5 minus 4 plus 1 says 2, and that gives us the right answer. So that's why we use that formula. We want to know where the z value of the wall is going to be, and we're looking at this left wall here. So if z is the value in the center, and the total width is tunnel width, then we want to divide the tunnel width by 2 to find out how to, what the value is over here. And we're going to use integer division, so we use // so that'll give an integer division. So 5 // 2 is going to equal 2. So wall Z is going to be ref Z minus 2. So if later on someone goes in and changes the tunnel width to be a wider tunnel, we would still calculate the wall Z to be in the correct place. And that's the advantage of using these formulae. Okay, now we're going to set up our ranges. So we're going to have a range of x, which is going to go from x min to x min plus tunnel length. Now I could have said range going from x min to x max plus 1, because it goes up to but not including the stop value. But by writing it this way, you make it more clear as to why Python uses this way of doing things, is because the length of the tunnel is just added onto the minimum value, and that's what's used at the for the stop value. So if there was an inclusive value, it would then be one number longer than the length, and so in that case we'd have to put tunnel length plus 1 if we wanted this to be an inclusive, minus 1 if we wanted that to be an inclusive number. So that's the way Python's chosen to do it, and it is fairly consistent all the way through Python, that it starts from the start value and will stop one before the stop value. So let's do the same thing for calculating the y's. So the range of y's for the exterior of the tunnel has got to go from 14 to 20. Okay, so the minimum value of y is going to be floor y, and we're going to go up floor y plus the tunnel height. Now Wei Yin's just asked, how do I work out which is the maximum min values of x? So remember on our sign down in the tunnel, it would have said that one end of the tunnel has an x value of 93 and the other end of the tunnel has an x value of 70. So we know that the two values are 70 and 93, and even in the picture that we've drawn on the task, you can see x equals 70 at one end of the tunnel and x equals 93 at the other end of the tunnel. Now what you have to do is work out which of those numbers is the bigger number. And so for us, 93 is the bigger number, so we're putting that in x max. That's the maximum value of x in the tunnel. And the minimum value of x in our tunnel is going to be 70. So because that's the smallest of those two numbers, and all the other numbers are going to be in between. Okay, does that answer the question? All right, we'll go on to the range for Z. Once again, we want to start at the wall value. And that's going to go wall Z plus and the tunnel width. Tunnel width is the stop value. I haven't put the start value in yet, so I'll put that in now. Okay. Now here are our two build commands. The first one is going to build all the glass, and the second one is going to build is going to empty it out in the middle by putting air in there. So we've stored these ranges in variables with good names. So this one's going to be the range of y values on the exterior. So that'll be range y exterior. And this one's going to be the range of z values on the interior. Okay, let's check how that goes. Congratulations, that all worked. So let's try building this. that built. Exit code 0, that's good. They used 480 glass blocks and 360 air blocks. So let's go into Mindtest and see what we've built. Okay, for people wanting to find their signs, I'll just show you where the signs are again. The signs are down. You have to go down the ladder to see the sign. And to go down a ladder, you have to hold the Shift key when you're on the ladder. So I'm holding Shift key to go down. And then I can go along the tunnel to read the signs. And I just designed this to make it a little bit more of a challenge for the kids who are playing it, to hide the signs for the task around, so they have to go looking for them. So there's the task, create the tunnel, dimensions 5 blocks wide, 7 blocks high. And the next sign is further down the tunnel, and that's where we've got all the coordinates going from x1 equals 93 to x2 equals 70. And so you have to work out which one of those to put into xmax and xmin. All right, let's go see what we built. It's at the top of the stairs here, so we can just go forwards on the stairs and automatically climb the stairs. Here's our glass tunnel. And I can look at my coordinates in the left. I can see I'm at about 93 now, and as I go, I'll go down to about 70. But by building this tunnel, I've uncovered something underground, which is this extra sign. And it says, "Congratulations, Pythonator." So obviously, congratulations because I've built the tunnel correctly. I can read the sign. If I hadn't built it correctly, I wouldn't be able to read this sign. That's one of the advantages of building it out of glass. Now change the tunnel floor to stone and place a torch every 4 blocks. Okay. I'll come out and I'll have a look at how other people are going with their... Oh, we've got a tunnel up here. That's looking good. Very good. So you can see what we're trying to do. We want to change the floor from glass to stone, and we want to put a few torches in here every 4 blocks. So the X values for the torches, we saw how to do arrange before. We want to go arrange from xmin to xmax. Now I could do xmax plus 1, probably won't make any difference, but I want to go up in 4s. So I could also have done xmin plus tunnel length there. But it's not going to be so important unless the torch actually is right on that last block. Okay, replace the floor with stone. So remember, the 4 things we need for a build are the X values, the Y values, the Z values, and the material. So we've got the Y is floor Y, the Z values is the interior range for Z values. So that's all been set, and the floor is going to be stone. So we just need to set the X values, which is just going to be range X. Okay, now we place the torches. We've already set range X torch as a variable up here. Now we just have to work out a formula. We can put a formula straight into the this function parameter, and it'll calculate the result of the formula and then send that to the function like we did here, refz plus 1. And what we want to do here is, this block here is X 93Y14, which is the floor value, and Z equals refz. One to the right is refz plus 1 for Z, but then we want to place the torch 1 up from here, so it's floor Y plus 1. I'll check that. That looks like it worked. So we'll run that. Okay, we'll go and have a look. Now we've got our stone floor, and we've got a torch every 4 characters, every 4 blocks. Very good. So when I first set this up, the next task, task 6, was checkered square. So we're going to construct a vertical square shape of alternating wool colours in the sky. Now that was pretty hard, so what I've now done in the PyCharm course, I've moved that to the advanced course, Pythonator B3 Advanced, and what we're doing now in PyCharm will be the revision of what we've just done with the tunnel. So let's go to PyCharm and we'll follow the tasks in PyCharm. So the first thing we're going to do is a wall of glass. So this is very similar to the tunnel we've just done. We're going to use arch height and arch width rather than tunnel height and tunnel width. And we're only going to do one. It's just going to be 1 block long is how long it's going to be. So that's going to be pretty easy. So let's read the task here. We've got to build a solid wall of glass 7 high by 5 wide at x equals 105. So the path x min is going to be 105. The floor y is going to be 9. The bottom of the wall should be at y equals 9. So let's put 9 in there. Once again, the height is 7, the width is 5. We're going to use air and glass. That's good. Now we want a formula for the wall Z. So this is going to be similar to how we did it for the tunnel. So it's just going to be the center point minus the arch width, integer division 2. And that's it. The next one, the range x arch. We're only doing one arch at this stage, one value of x. So we can just put in the single number there, 105. But the range of y's on the external, they're going to go from 9 to 15. So once again, range is going to go from floor y to floor y plus arch height. And the range of z's is going to go from wall z to wall z plus arch width. So, and if you feel it's easier just to type in the numbers, especially for the z's, there's only 5 of them, you could just type them in a sequence. Don't put the word range there, just do a list or a tuple with parentheses or square brackets, and just type them in. So you just go 128, 129, 130, 131, 132. For me or for you, you use your Z values. All right, clear any existing structural ground. So because some people are halfway in a mountain, I've just put in some commands there to clear it out so you can see what's actually going to be built, and build a bit of a stone path outwards, but you don't have to worry about that. Build a solid cuboid of glass, 7 blocks high, 5 blocks wide. That's all set up. We've done all the ranges, so let's check that. That's working, and let's run that. And we'll go into mind test, and I look behind me, and there it is. There's the wall of glass. So now we've got to convert that into an arch. So just like the tunnel, we're going to replace the middle blocks of glass with air, and so we can then walk through it. arch. So we have to remove the center part of the wall so it becomes an arch. So we remove blocks by placing air at that location. That's what it's going to look like. Okay. What have we got here? Path X min 105, floor Y, that's what we all set last time. So the interior dimensions of the arch, this time they're going to go not from floor Y, but floor Y plus 1. And they're going to go up to floor Y plus arch height, but minus 1, because we want to stay interior. Floor Y plus arch height minus 1. And the Z, similarly, once again, now it's only 3 numbers, we could just type them in. So, yeah, why don't I do that? 129, 130, 131. Or I could have done range wall Z plus 1 to wall Z plus arch width minus 1. Okay, now I'm going to do a build statement by myself, the whole build statement. Okay, mc.build, and you can see it's doing some command completion for me here, and it's saying X, Y, Z, and then something else. And that self, that as at the beginning, that's because MC is a class, is an object. So you can ignore that for now. So now we're into the X's in there. So have I got a range X for the arch? Yes. And then the Y's are going to be range Y interior, range Z interior. And the item is, so it's telling me what I've got to fill out next. Item is going to be air. So I could have done that as a string, I've done it as a variable called air. I'll check that. Very good, so we'll run that. See what it looks like. And now I can walk through my arch. Very good, and I can see an arch being built over there. Okay. So this is still working on a single arch. Now we want to put some stone at the bottom and a torch. So very similar to the tunnel that we were doing before. So we're going to, everything else has been created. We've got a few extra lines going in here, the path length, castle length, castle width, but we're not actually going to use those yet. So let's set the material here for the floor, and that's going to be default stone. Replace the floor with stone. Okay. So we want to do a build. The X is going to be the range of X of arch. The Y value is going to be floor Y. It's just a single value, so I don't need to do a sequence. And the Z value is going to be 3 of them. It's going to be range Z interior. And we're going to use floor as the material. And we want to place a torch in that spot. So mc.build. This is just a single torch per arch. So it just needs, we're using a sequence for the, well in fact the range X arch is actually just a single number at the moment. Floor Y plus 1. Remember we have to go up 1 to place it on top of the floor rather than in the floor. And we're doing it at ref Z plus 1. to do it off the off center. We're going to say what we're going to do there, which is going to be a torch. Okay, I got something wrong. 105.10.131 is air, which doesn't match default torch. 105. I said +1, but I didn't type it. So I was building the torch inside the floor. Okay, that checks out. Let's run that. Reconnecting too fast. So I've got a throttle on the game to stop people setting too much to the chat server. I thought I'd allowed it a bit faster than that though. So obviously I've caught up with that. But let's have a look. Oh, there's nothing there yet, so let's see how other people are going. In 2's down the ladder. It's looking good. I'll give it one more go here. Try running it. Oh, I might have actually sent it. No. Let's try running it again. Yep, sent it that time. And there we go, we've got stone on the floor and a torch. Okay, let me know if I'm going too fast, but it could be that you just want to watch it now, and then later on you can go in and run through the tasks one at a time, and then and watch the video, because I'm going faster than you would normally solve all these problems, and it's sometimes fun to sit down and solve them without having to try to keep up with everything else. Okay, so we've written a whole lot of code that works for a single arch, and now we want to do several arches. So we're just going to change one of the lines of code here, and that's this one here, range x arch. And we want it to be a sequence of 4 values, each one separated by 3 blocks, so it means counting up in 4s. And it's going to, we're just going to, rather than we just had a number in there, which was path x min, now we're going to put a range in there going from path x min to path x min plus path length, and we're going to go up in 4s. So just by changing that one line, that one value in this variable range x arch, we can run that and it will create multiple arches. So there we go. If we look through, we've now got 4 arches. Let's put a torch at each one and an arch, a glass arch, and let's put the stone at the floor of each one as well. So that's some of the power of those using those sequences for building stuff. Right, so now we're going to build a castle. So you can see here's the base of the castle. So it's just going to be stone. We're going to hollow out the stone, and we're going to build doorway at the end. So let's have a look how we'll do that. See what we're going to do. So the castle is going to be 5 blocks high, this base part of the castle. Length will be 9, width will be 5. Okay, castle length 9, width 5, height 5. The wall Z, that's going to be ref Z minus the castle width, half of the castle width. So that means our external dimensions of the castle base, and you're getting pretty familiar with these now. They're going to go from castle x min to castle x min plus castle length. Okay, the range of the y's is going to go from floor y to floor y plus the castle height. And the z's are going to go from wall z to wall z plus the castle width. And we've done the interior ones for you. Okay, well, Ian, you're trying to get out of your tunnel. So if you're too close to the ladder, you might be bumping up against the sign at the top of the ladder. So just look at the ladder and just go backwards a little bit with the S key, and then go up further, and then you'll be able to walk out. So I'll just finish this off, create a doorway. The doorway, we need the sequence y, 10 and 11. So I can just put those y values straight in here and build some air there. All right, and I'll go into line test and we'll see what how we're going. Looks like Wei Yin got out. Very good. So let's go have a look at our castle. We've got a doorway and we've got some walls. Very good. So now we're going to put some windows in our castle, and we're going to use so a window block is more complicated than a normal block because it's got to have a direction as well as a material. So we set the name, so X panes bar flat, and then we have the direction. So if you're looking in the X direction, then you put plus X in there. If you're looking in the Z direction, you put a plus Z. So we just store those two into these material names here, window X and window Z. All right, so wall Z1 is ref Z minus castle width divided by 2. So wall Z2, pretty sure, is going to be just the Z value of the other wall. So it's going to be castle width divided by 2. And I just do a plus. All right, height of side windows from 2 above floor to height of castle. Okay, well we can do that. It's going to be a range from the floor y plus 2 to floor y plus castle height. And the side windows, the X, so place side windows every 2 blocks starting from second block from door. So the door was at castle X min. Every starting from second block from door, plus 2. And we're going to go castle X min plus castle length. And we're going to go up in 2s. Okay, so we specified the range of the Y's will be this, 11, 12, 13. We put it in as formulae. And the X's are going to be 123, 125, 127. But I put it in as formulae again. So if someone changes the size of the castle later, they still put the windows at the right place. Clear any, all right, doing all this. Add windows on the side walls. Range X window, range Y window. Okay, on the side walls, so to look out of these windows, you're going to be looking in the Z direction. So we want to put window Z in there. And the windows on the front walls, this one's here, we're going to be looking in the X direction, window X. So let's check that. Did we get it right? Still checking. I'll try testing it again. No. Got a red line here. I should check that out. All right, I appear to have stopped my PyCharm from working. So I'm going to force quit PyCharm. Okay, and we'll start it up again. I'll hide the project by clicking on the tab there. Castle base, we've done that one. So the windows, we've filled in most of the windows. That's all okay. All right, now it's got confused here. You can see it's got different where it thinks the answer should go and not in the right spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the course, reset this task, and we'll do it again. So it's got really confused. Ref Z plus castle width divided by 2. Height range floor Y plus 2, floor Y plus castle height. Windows every 2 blocks starting from castle X min plus 2, X min plus castle length, comma 2. The side windows we're looking in the Z direction, window Z. The end windows looking in the X direction. Okay, save that, check. Incorrect. Okay, 129, 11, 128 is which doesn't match default stone. So I'm putting windows where I should have stone. 129. Is going to be, so maybe I've gone too far. On there. Let's try that. That got it. Okay, so let's run that. And I could have run that and just saw what it built. There we go, we've got windows for our castle. Move on to the next one, castle roof. So we're going to build a roof, so it's going to be slightly wider, and then we're going to hollow it out in the side. Then we're going to build a ladder so you can get up onto the roof from inside. So let's see what we have to do. We've got the building locations all set, the building size is okay, materials, ladder. So we're going to make a ladder. It's going to have a name as default ladder wood, but we have to give it a direction. So when they're climbing that ladder, he's going to be looking in the plus X direction. So let's replace that string with plus X. And we've calculated the walls at the base of the castle, external dimensions of the base of the castle, internal dimensions of the base of the castle, height of the windows. So we've done all the windows, and external dimensions of the castle roof. Okay. So it's going to be one extra from the, let's see if we've got any pictures here. There's our ladder. No. So you can just see that it's going to be one extra wider and one extra longer at each end. So the range for the exterior of the x values of the roof is going to be castle x min -1, and it's going to go to castle x min plus castle length +1. And similarly, similarly for the z's, it's going to be the same as the, so it's just going to be wall z 1 -1 to wall z 1 plus castle width +1. And the y's, it's just 14, 15, 16. So I can just type those numbers in. 14, 15, 16. I mean, I could have done a formula based on floor Y and castle height as well. So we're going to build the castle roof out of the castle material, and then we're going to hollow it out with air. Now we have to build this ladder, and the ladder has to be against the wall to climb it easily. So it's going to go, the x value has been set, the y values, we need a sequence for the y values. So they're going to go 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So let's just put them in. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Well, looks like it's happy with that. Well, let's build that. And have a look what it looks like. We've got a roof now over our head. We've got a ladder. And now we can go up to the top of the castle. But we can't see out. I'll try jumping, pressing the space bar. But that didn't work, so let's go on to the next task. So we're going to add a door at the entrance, crenels on the roof, and a red carpet under the arches through the door and to the ladders. Okay. The name for a wooden door is door wood A, and the A means the left door of a pair. But we're only doing a single door, so that's all we'll do. Doors also need a direction parameter. The direction is the direction the player is facing when viewing the door. And viewing the door, the door will be flush with any wall beside it. Okay, so that looks like plus X is what we're going to need for that. Crenels and merlons. Classic castle design has a square tooth wall protecting soldiers in the castle. The gaps are called crenels, and the solid bits are called merlons. So let's see how we can create them. What do we have to do? Building size is all set. The material, our carpet, we're going to make a red carpet. Now we have to create a dictionary for the door. So you see what we've done for the torches. They've got a name and a direction. So they're the two keys in the dictionary, and there are two values in the dictionary. So the name has the value default torch wall, and direction has a value of -Z. So let's do a similar thing for a door. So dictionaries are created in curly braces. Then we create our first key, and the key we put in quotes so that it's otherwise you can use a variable name in there, and it will take what the value of the variable is as the key for this dictionary. Now I'm really racing through dictionaries here, you should, so don't expect to understand it fully just from what I'm saying. So the name is going to be doors : door wood A. And it's going to have a direction. Let's give it plus X. Okay, now we have to do the location of the crenels and the merlons on the castle roof. So the crenel Y, we could put a number in there, or we could put a formula. So if I look in here, that's the floor, plus that's the castle height, plus 3. Let's try that. Plus 3, which is the roof height. I don't think we put that into a variable. No. I'll try that. The roof X2 is, oh, okay, yep, so one wall is going to be castle X min -1. And it goes, and the top wall is going to be, the X value is going to be castle X min plus castle length. That's going to be wall Z1 -1, and it's going to be wall Z2 +1. So what we're trying to do is get the X values for these crenels at this end and this end, and we've got the Z values for the crenels on either side. So we're going to build the crenels on the roof by putting air there. So the Z values are going to be at wall Z1 and wall Z1 plus castle width. And the sequence. So here we can look at some of the hints and see what they tell us. So that's for the wool colour, dictionary, and there's pretty much give us the answer for the dictionary for the door. Crenel Y needs to be the Y value where the crenels will be created in the wall. Yep. Castle height +2. Well, I think I said +3. Yeah, +2. Roof X needs the number of the formula for the X value at the minimum end of the X end of the roof. Yeah, nice. Castle X min. Yep. One block earlier. Yep, so we got that. And roof Z1 is minimum Z value of the wall for building the crenels. And similarly, roof Z2. Oh, so when building crenels at each end of the roof, you need to provide the two X values corresponding to the ends of the roof. Okay. So there, the two X values is just going to be, I can put them in a sequence, and it's just going to be roof X1 and roof X2. And similarly, there's roof Z1, roof Z2 is how they did the crenels at, so this was X is each end and this is on each side. And then to do the red carpet, we're just going to go from well, that can be arranged going from path X min to path X min plus path length. I haven't got a path length. So let's see what we've got. Oh, I could go up to castle X min plus castle length. Because we want it to go into the castle. But it doesn't need to be under the wall. Let's see how we went with that. Got it all right. So I'll let you play with that yourself, go through all of those, work out how they all work, and you can even change the design of the castle yourself if you want to. Alright, so now we've got some crenels, so we can look out. Let's have a look at what other people have done. I can jump up and see Wei Yin's doing well, got some windows on her castle, and yep, that's looking good. Not much from other people. I'm going to go back down. So to get on the ladder, you press the shift. And you see how we've got torches inside our castle. We've got a nice carpet. To go through a door, you right click on the door and go through, and you can close the door by right clicking on it. So that finished the tasks in the in PyCharm, but they've got one more which lets you design your own flag. And so you can choose what sort of colours you want and what what you want, and so it's got functions here. This is all quite getting more advanced Python. You could just do a simple one, and I've got it set up so you can just comment or uncomment to get different effects. So it's a quite interesting code. Let's see, you can say, let's say we wanted to have so your colours, I've set up all the colours in here. You can change which colours you want. We're going to have a pattern centered on the center of the flag, or you can have a pattern centered on the front bottom corner. So we'll center on the center of the flag. And let's have a pattern where we have, we'll just go with vertical stripes for now. And we want the width of the stripe. So the stripe width is currently 5. We can change that to 3. And so see what that looks like. So there's no real check for this. We just press play and see what we get. We'll look over here so we can see it. And there's a flag with vertical stripes. Each one's 3 wide. So this is just a fun one to play with. You can go back in to PyCharm Edu and say, all right, so now we want, I'll just click on this tab here. Now we want to have horizontal stripes. So rather than the colour being a function of X, we want the colour to be a function of Y. And it's just going to be Y integer division 2 modulo 15, so it gets one of the colours in our list. And we can even change the shape of the flag as well. So let's do a half ellipse flag. So where it says rectangle flag, let's go half ellipse. And let's run this. There you go. So you can see the shape of the flag is now a half ellipse. We'll go into Wei Yin's castle so we can see it properly. All right, it's behind that. Now, because we've done some extra tasks, we actually get extra abilities now. So one of our extra abilities is being able to fly. So if I press the K key, I've got fly mode enabled. So I can press space twice and just go up. In fact, space just once. There we go, so I can look at my flag. There you go, so that's the Pythonator course. I hope you had fun. Have you got any more questions? When you're flying, go down by pressing the Shift key, forwards by pressing W. You've got a blue one. But I'd encourage you to keep going on these exercises because they are lots of fun, and then you can see what you can build. And I've seen people build amazing things in Python code.
Okay, Wei Yin's asked about the door names. So all the material names, that's mind test stuff. So it's not really anything to do with Python. So if I go back to the door, but Python itself uses a lot of third-party libraries for things. So learning Python is all about learning the third-party libraries as well. So if you see, I'm pointing at this door here, and in mind test, it's up in the top left-hand side. It's on the end of the second row. It's saying what I'm pointing to, which is doors : door wood A. So that's a door that's a left-hand door of a two-door set. Yeah, so Python doesn't have any concept of doors itself, but it can build stuff in this mind test world by using these extra packages. So what we're trying to achieve here is by using the extra packages in how to build things, we're also learning some of the Python constructs as well. So we learned how to do loops, we learned how to use variables, we learned how to use sequences. So we had the different data types. We were using integers, we were using strings, we were using dictionaries, lists, tuples, and ranges, which are actually a data type in themselves. So, and if you look at the flag exercise, there's a lot in that. It's got conditionals in there, ifs, statements, so that lets your Python code branch based on that. It's using functions as objects. There's quite a lot of stuff going in that in that flag example, but it's more complicated. So I'll just leave you to play with that one. But if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. Okay, well, I'll end the YouTube chat. I'll keep listening to the Slack chat. And yeah, I hope you had fun.